And you are live.
Good evening, everyone. This is the November 30th meeting of the Annapolis Education Commission, and we're happy to have you join us. We've got a lot to talk about tonight, so we're going to power through our attendance and minutes and then move on. My name is Janet Norman. I'm the chair this year of the commission and an at-large member. So Ward 1. If you can just pop on, say your name, say any quick affiliations you have, and we'll move through our appointed member list.
Hi, so I'm from Ward 1. I'm Rachel Carr.
Great, thank you, Rachel. Ward 2. Do we have anybody from Ward 2 tonight? Oh, so Ward 2 is Jamie Weaver and a Georgetown, Germantown elementary parent. And she had a conflict tonight with an excused absence. Ward 3. Who is our Ward 3 representative? Okay, Ward 4.
Good evening, everyone. And I think Enid is Ward 3.
Yes, Enid is Ward 3, and she's not here with us yet tonight. So yes, so that's Alderwoman Sheila Finlayson from Ward 4. Ward 5.
Ward 5, India Oaks.
Thank you, India. Ward 5 is here. Ward 6.
Hi, my name is Corey Mackle. I'm here.
Great. And Corey has 2 children at Annapolis Middle and Annapolis High.
Yep.
Great. Okay, Ward 7.
That's me. Laura Booth, Ward 7. I have a parent of a 2021 graduate from Annapolis High, and I have a student at Bates Middle School right now, where I'm also the PTA president. Great.
Thank you, Laura. Ward 8.
Hi, I'm Jess Packler. I am the Ward 8 representative, and I am a mom of a sophomore at Annapolis High School, an 8th grader at Annapolis Middle School, and 5th and 3rd graders at Eastport Elementary. And I am the PTSA president at Annapolis Middle School.
Great. Thank you, Jess.
And I like to fight Laura because Annapolis Middle School dragons win.
We'll let you do that later. Okay. Our
Can't we all just
at-large
get along?
our at-large members. Odessa, can you introduce yourself? We can't hear you.
Okay, Odessa Elvis, parent of 3 graduates from Annapolis High School, and also a long-term permanent sub at Annapolis High School, retired as of January.
Thank you. Thank you. Our secretary, Pam Bukowski.
Sorry, Pam Bukowski. I had 6 children attending schools in the Annapolis feeder system. I'm a retired speech language pathologist and have had affiliation with this commission for over 15 years and others.
Yes, and Pam is our very diligent taker of the minutes. That is so helpful when people miss a meeting, or if we want to fill in our elected representatives and others. Our minutes have been incredibly helpful this year to catch people up on what we've been doing, which is a lot. We have some guests tonight. We have Dr. Joanna Tobin. Thank you. So I'm going to move right into the minutes and the adoption of the draft minutes with any revisions. I would like to make one revision to the minutes. And Pam, if we can continue this in future meetings. The third item is members who are absent on roll call. We have some excused absences. Alderwoman Finlayson had written me prior to the meeting to let me know she was going to be on travel and was not likely to make it. So if we can designate between excused absences and regular absences, because Jamie Weaver is an excused absence for tonight, also with her conflict. She sent us some things. Great. So we'll make that revision. Does anyone else have any suggested revisions to the minutes? Okay. Hearing none, we will move forward with a motion to adopt the minutes. Could someone make that motion?
I'll move.
I'll
Laura.
second.
Okay,
Yes.
Jess seconds the motion. All in favor, please raise your hand up, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes, minutes are adopted. I don't have my agenda in front of me because I was having technical difficulties. So the next item on the agenda, Laura, what's the next item on the agenda? I
Wait,
think
you want me to unmute and go over and look at the agenda? Hang on, I'll bring it up.
Yes. So I think we're going to move into Dr. Tobin's presentation and updates for us because she is on limited time with us tonight. She's had a full and busy day with MSDE meetings and other things. So we're very thankful she is squeezing us in. Before we start that, I'm just going to give a couple of my intentions for this meeting. At this meeting tonight, we're going to communicate dates, needs, data, solidify our personal connections, make plans for follow-up communication between us before the next meeting. And we're going to hammer out what we need to do to be a functioning team that works our best together. Our second intention is we're going to give grace to everybody during this time of year. We're going to try and help each other out as much as possible because it is a stressful time with lots of extra duties thrown in, more traffic, frustrations, teacher recommendations from our teachers are due, college applications, career launch, testing. There's a lot going on. So if we can help each other as much as possible, I really appreciate that. And then the third.
Excuse me, Laura. Or Janet, I'm sorry. Enid is trying to get on. And
Okay.
she's listed as a guest, not as a panelist. And so she's not able to get on.
Okay.
I
great.
just let her in. It's because I can't see the list when the screen's being shared, so she should join in a second.
Awesome.
Okay. Thank you, Madeline.
Thank you very much, Alderwoman. I appreciate you getting Enid through here. My third intention for tonight's meeting is we're going to have our pen and paper ready to listen to some dates that Dr. Tobin's going to tell us that we're going to share among each other for things coming up in the future that we'd like to get on our calendars to attend or write an email about or let a friend know about, so that we can really show up for our cluster during some key times that are coming up soon. Great. So with those intentions, I am going to turn it over to Dr. Tobin. If she has some energy left from her day to tell us what's going on.
Thank you. Thank you all, as always, for kindly inviting me. It's always a pleasure to be here. Yes, we've got a lot going on, but that's all good. It's all good things. So I'll just run down a few things here. I think most of you are aware that prior to Thanksgiving, Dr. Bedell and I appeared before the City Council. Thank you to Alderwoman Finlayson and all the other members of the council for extending that invitation. None of us could remember when that had ever happened before. And I think, I hope Alderwoman Finlayson agrees with me that it was a very valuable 2 hours, really, where Dr. Bedell presented a lot of information. We had a great conversation with all the members of the City Council, and the mayor, of course, and I think, solidified some areas where we kind of understand each other, and we may be able to do some work together. And so we certainly on our end felt it was tremendously valuable. And for our students in Annapolis, most importantly, I think it was valuable because as we talked about that day, and we know the kids in the city too often fall between the cracks of the county on the one hand and the city on the other. And I think for a lot of members of the city council, there was a lot of information, quite literally, that was valuable to them that they hadn't really understood previously or hadn't been able to ask their questions about. And so a number of good things came out of that. It is recorded. If you have, I believe, Janet, you sent it around.
Yeah, I sent the link to everyone around, and I'm happy if you don't have that, I'm happy to send it around again. But literally, like you said, I think it was the best 2 hours of presentation I've ever seen in the many years I've been watching Board of Ed things.
And so hopefully you can watch it. The good news is because our board meetings are now averaging an hour to an hour and a half, all the time you're saving by not having to watch an 8-hour board meeting, you can spend watching 2 hours of the city council presentation and still come out ahead. So, you know, that's my plug, because I just think there's a lot of tremendously useful information there that I'm not going to spend time going over a lot of it.
I have some pictures of the slides he presented during the thing that I'm going to cover a little bit later in our PowerPoint.
Yep. A couple of things. The other thing is on Monday night, we had the first of the listening tours that Dr. Bedell is doing all over the county. The first one was at Annapolis High. I know several of you were there. But please know that if you can't make the one at the high school nearest to you, you can go to any of the others that are on the schedule. They go through January. The structure of them is that Dr. Bedell gives a sort of mini version of the presentation that he gave to the city council with some other very specific things he, related to the listening tour. And then those who are attending can get into facilitated small groups of 6 to 8, talk through several questions, which really have to do with your feedback on what's working. What would you like to see changes in? What would you like to see in the future? All of that information is being gathered and will go into Dr. Bedell's final report that we get. And Dr. Bedell is a master of data, and it's not just quantitative, but it's this kind of data, which is qualitative, which is people's responses to these questions. And so please know that it's really, really important to get your feedback and for you to encourage other folks to come. There will be another session in Annapolis in January at Tyler Heights, held exclusively in Spanish. There are 3 around the county in Spanish. One of them will be at Tyler Heights in early January. But there are a number that, they're being held all over the county. We were just the first stop on the tour. So I hope it was useful for those of you who were there. I would encourage all of you who haven't yet had a chance to attend one, please come. And this will happen again, probably once we then start the strategic planning process. Dr. Bedell has a whole set of meetings for community feedback in that process too, because he's also very committed to, having a strategic plan that is done jointly with the community. So that's something else that just to keep on your radar. A couple of things today. You may be aware that an announcement was sent out today that all of our full-time staff, each person received $1,000 appreciation bonus, which is funded by the positions we have not been able to fill. And obviously everyone else is having to pitch in and do extra work. And so this is a small, but we hope important way of demonstrating our commitment to show our staff that we're tremendously grateful and we know how hard it is right now. I toured an elementary school in another part of the county this morning, and particularly for various reasons in their fourth grade, they've got classes that are averaging 32 kids. I mean, that's a huge amount for a teacher to handle.
Yeah.
The teachers are doing an amazing job. But that's kind of a, for some reason it's the fourth grade is a pinch point in that school. The other grades are fine, but for it just sometimes projections don't quite work out as they should. And so, that's just one example. That happens to be a school where staffing is not an issue per se. In other words, every position is filled, but there's still the case where this particular grade level, the teachers have a high number of students in each class. So, it's just another example of what we know is happening. So we've heard very good feedback on that. You may have heard some concern about temporary employees. Let me just say, we are pursuing bonuses for those employees through other means. There are some possibilities through leads grants and other things. So we are pursuing that. But this particular bonus, the way it was structured, was specifically for our full-time employees. Some folks have expressed concern over whether or not the contracted bus drivers got this. The contracted bus drivers did not get this bonus. They got a $1,500 bonus last year that our bus drivers who work directly for us did not get. They got a $750 bonus this year that our directly employed bus drivers did not get. And the contracted bus drivers got a 10% COLA as opposed to the 4% COLA that our employees got. So, all of these things go into kind of balancing how we sent this out. But this $1,000 bonus went to every single employee, our food service workers, our custodians, our teachers, our administrators. Dr. Bedell declined to take it. If you've read the press release or the letter that he sent to employees, you will see he's made a commitment to focus on closing the wage disparities in this county.
You mean between counties?
Between counties.
Between counties is what he presented in his city council and other testimony. And looking at, we are the 19th out of 24 jurisdictions in our teacher salaries. And
starting
teacher salaries, and yet one of the most expensive jurisdictions to live in.
And the third wealthiest in this. I will reiterate that. We are the third wealthiest. We are 19th in starting salaries. That's MSDE data. We are 18th as of 2021, because the 2022 data wasn't done because of ESSER and various other complications. But in the 2021 data, we were 18th out of 24 in our expenditure per pupil per year. And again, we are the third wealthiest county. So I just want you to think about that. Yes, Ms. Ellis.
Is that tax cap still on in this county?
Yes. And to my knowledge, someone correct me, we are not even at the tax cap. We have not reached it. We are still beneath it.
But Joanna, if you could send us that those talking points from the MSDE data, so I can send out to the rest of the commission. I'd like it if, in our conversations around town, if we tell people, tell PTAs, tell other parents, tell, community members those important statistics about, our ability to hire, our ability to compete in the marketplace. And then I'll go back to you, Odessa, if you had other questions.
Oh, I guess I just don't understand what Dr. Tobin said about the tax cap, that we are not at the tax cap, you said. Can you
So
explain that?
The tax cap is a limit, right? It's basically saying this is the limit for taxes. It's complex, which particular, the property tax, blah, 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 but there's a limit, right? And I'm just saying, to my knowledge, it's my understanding, we haven't even reached that limit at this point. In other words, and look, I'm not trying to raise anybody's taxes. I'm just saying we could be taxing more, getting more revenue, and still be within that limit. So does that make sense? Does that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's, my point in saying this is, and Dr. Bedell's point in saying it, is that these are decisions we as a community have made about what we're going to spend, where we're going to spend it, how we're going to spend it. Those of us, I believe, who advocate for children, and children obviously don't vote, most of them, need to make clear that those decisions have costs and consequences when it comes to what we're able to do. So I just think those are important. It struck me when I came on this board that nobody was really talking about where we fit in the state, in the list of counties in the state. And I just think that's an important measure to keep in mind as we think about kind of where we are. So those are things that Dr. Bedell has been spending a lot of time talking about, and frankly, being very straight up about with our other partners at the county and state level. So Alderwoman, I'm sorry. Sorry, Ms. Ellis, yes?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It was my understanding that that's the reason why the teachers' salaries are so low, because of the tax cap. Does that play into it?
Well, it has we get our money ultimately from the county council, right? And the county council obviously is making a budget subject to the tax cap and everything else. So how decisions are made for expenditure is related to how much money there is to spend, right? So it does have an impact. And when you look at the disparity between counties, it is glaring that the counties we're closest to in wealth, Montgomery, Howard, spend a whole lot more relatively on their students and their school systems. And one of the distinctions there is that they don't have the kind of tax cap that we do. So yes, there is a connection. Janet, I don't want to take over your job of calling on people.
Well, Alderwoman Finlayson has her hand up next, so we'll move from Odessa to her.
Yes, thank you. Just to give us a historical perspective, and this is almost 20 years ago. Actually, it's a little longer than 20 years ago. We had a serious disparity in salaries, as we do today. And back then, we were probably 20th out of 24 jurisdictions. Wow. I think we were 19. And I've had this discussion with Dr. Bedell, so he's fully aware. And during my tenure as TAC president, I worked very hard to educate the community on the salary disparities. And one of the most memorable things, and Enid, you will probably remember this, and Pam as well, we took out a full page ad in the Capitol. Cost us $4,500. And in that ad, we listed the 6 jurisdictions with whom we are closest in demographics. And we listed the starting salary for each. Montgomery, Howard, Charles, Baltimore County, Anne Arundel. And since it's all women online, all of the 5 local jurisdictions were led by females as far as the teachers are concerned, associations are concerned. So we met monthly and kept track of what one another was doing. So anyway, in this chart, we listed the starting salaries for every teacher in those jurisdictions. And then we jumped to another point on the salary scale, 10 or 12. And then we jumped to step 19. And that is when we had 30 steps on the scale.
Right.
The smallest salary disparity was about $900.
Mhm.
The largest, and I don't remember with whom that was, but the largest disparity was with Montgomery County, step 19. Their teachers made $25,000 more a year
Wow.
than Anne Arundel teachers. And that line was highlighted in the article. Okay, so we laid the groundwork by helping the community see just how poorly our teachers were being paid.
Mhm.
And that year, we were able to negotiate 3 6s.
Mhm.
So our teachers got a 6% pay raise 3 years in a row.
Mhm.
And that had been unheard of since, I want to say, the late 70s, early 90s, early 80s,
Yeah.
when we got 3 9s under Jim Lighthizer.
Yeah.
But it took laying the groundwork and
Yes.
helping the community to see in black and white, if necessary, just how poorly our teachers were being cared for. Because we all know that when teachers are well cared for, our children are well cared for. And so, I tell you all of this to say, we need a campaign to educate the community on where our teachers stand. And why is it that we can't attract the best and brightest to Anne Arundel County? Because we should. And I am convinced that the community will stand behind us, given the data that we know exists. And I believe Dr. Bedell is going to be doing pretty much exactly that.
Yeah.
But we can help. We can help.
And he's asked for our help. I think that's an awesome suggestion, Alderwoman Finlayson, because that's exactly what we all need to elicit others in this effort to help him be successful in his campaign to build better for our teacher support. And I Dr. Tobin, I just want to say I'm super thankful for his show of appreciation to our teachers, because I know a lot of them, I know personal ones who left because they just felt like they were punching bags and they weren't supported by the administration to the degree they needed to be. And so this appreciation is a great start to acknowledge these professionals.
Yeah, I mean, it's a critical thing to do. There will also be a healthcare premium holiday in the latter part of December for employees. And just to add to Alderwoman Finlayson's point, the other thing is this isn't just an issue for teachers. It's for all of our staff. And all of our staff matter to our kids. And Dr. Bedell is shocked, and I agree with him, that we have food service workers who make $12.50 an hour. When he came from Kansas City, Missouri, where the cost of living is much lower, and I think their minimum, nobody made less than 15 an hour in their system.
18 or
18, that's right.
Yeah.
And so, this is also about making sure that the whole system is appropriate, because we know we can't compete on bus drivers. We can't compete with McDonald's and Burger King when it comes to food service workers. These are the things that our children need, and we have to be able to provide. So that is I think Dr. Bedell is laying that groundwork. I think we said this before the city council. I'll say it to you. We need the support of other people who are in positions, other and elected bodies, commissions, everybody to begin to get this message out, get the data out, help people understand what we're working for here and really how critical the issue is, because we are coming out of COVID pretty much. And we have a moment where we have to make real changes, big changes in the educational system. But we are also in a moment where nationally we've lost 600,000 teachers over the last couple of years in terms of leaving the profession.
Mhm.
And so we are going to have to think innovatively and intelligently about how to proceed and make sure our children get the education that they need and they deserve.
Those are great points. I just want to add something that we've brought up a previous meeting when we talked about not being able to get food service workers. When we don't have enough food service staff at Annapolis High, kids spend their Panther hour when they're trying to get help and remediation in classes. They were out sick.
Yep.
They've missed things. They spend their Panther hour waiting in lunch lines instead of being able to go into those classes, just because we have a lack of food service workers because of low salaries and other factors.
Yep.
So every support person's role in the school system makes a greater impact on student learning than people realize. I'm going to go to Jess.
I was just going to say that was something I was actually going to bring up tonight, is that, at Annapolis High School, they used to have the kiosks in the hallway during Panther Hour. We no longer have kiosks in the hallway. The only way, if you're getting food, so if you're a free and reduced lunch recipient, or you're just buying lunch because you're buying lunch, the only way to get lunch is to go all the way to the cafeteria. And, there are times, depending on what's going on, where if you're in the cafeteria, then that's where you've chosen to be, and then you're not allowed to go to Panther Hour. So it's a very real choice that our kids are having to make every single day as to whether to get the academic help that they're being offered or to go to Panther Hour. And it's not just at Annapolis High School. It's the same
Or
thing
eat,
as
you're saying.
Broadneck. Eat or get
Or
the
help.
academic help that you need. And it's not just at Annapolis High School. I've talked to parents. I was asking what it was like at some of the other schools, and I know it's a similar situation there. But that's not a choice we should be asking young teenagers to make. Do you want to eat lunch, or do you want to get the extra help in algebra so that you can get your grade to the level it should be at? I mean, that's so.
Do we have any idea why those kiosks are not present?
My understanding is it has a lot to do with staffing.
That's what I've been told as well. It's staffing.
These are the impacts of having vacancies in these areas and not being able to hire, not being competitive. And, it just has a ripple effect all the way through. And in this case, so often food service workers have a disproportionate, or the lack thereof has a disproportionate impact, often on our most vulnerable students. And so, the kid who's bringing their lunch to school is not feeling it in the same way.
Right.
So, these are the things that when you dig down into what it costs to do this, you have to understand what the impacts are.
And the other impact of that is because of the lack of staffing. Not only do you not have kiosks, but you only have one lunch line.
Exactly.
So all 1,000 kids who are going into lunch at one time, there's one lunch line for them to go through.
Yep.
We've got to fix that in some way. We've got to do some emergency actions, because that is just, as you say, it's exacerbating the gap.
Yep.
So I'm going to go to Laura next, has a question.
I don't have a question, but I just want to share this. Thank you, Bob. Bob Mosher is watching this evening and sent us this these slides so that
Yes.
we could share them. But these are the numbers that we're talking about. So just if you wanted to see a visual of that, this is the visual that was presented, so that you can sort of
And
take
we'll
a
be
look.
sending that around to the entire commission. Yeah, I just saw the text from Bob. Thank you, Laura, for
Sure.
zapping up there. You are
Oops,
amazing.
sorry. Whoops. Oh, so
And thank you,
again, here's-
Bob.
Thank you,
yes, thank you, Bob.
So, yeah, so all the commission members will get this PowerPoint that Bob just shared with us after I send it around. But these are our talking points that we need to make, and the talking points
Yep.
about the, the bottlenecks at the kiosks. Now, if I could press that we really need to do something about that. We can't let that status quo linger for our kids. So whatever it takes to do something. Alderwoman Mason, did you know of any changes yet in the city transportation to try and help get workers more easily to the Annapolis High School area on public buses?
I don't know what you mean by workers. Who are you talking about? You're talking
Like-
about students?
like
So when I had that
anybody-
conversation, I can speak to
Anybody
it
from
because that was
Forest Drive? Like,
yeah,
who
so when
wants
I had
to
that
work?
conversation at the beginning of the school year multiple times with various people and with the transportation board and with other people within the city, one of the points that we brought up, one of the points that I kept bringing up was that we don't need a public bus stop at the high school just because of the bus issue that's currently happening. We need a bus stop at Annapolis High School that Annapolis city buses go to because it's a workforce development thing. We need a way for employees of Annapolis High School who don't have their own transportation to take a city bus to get to the high school that doesn't take an hour and a half. Right now, if you live on Forest Drive, it takes an hour and a half to take a city bus to Annapolis High School. If you are going in for a 3-hour shift in the cafeteria, you're not going to spend 3 hours riding a bus to and from. It's an hour and a half there and an hour and a half back. No one's going to do that. It's not worth the $12 an hour, right? So it's a workforce development. I think that often got lost in the conversation. People kept thinking we were talking about the bus driver issue, but we weren't talking about the bus driver issue. We were talking about our city residents who want to get to Annapolis High School to take the open jobs. There are many, many open jobs at Annapolis High School, as well as our students who want to travel to and from the school outside of the bus hours, right? I have a son who's a swimmer, and he finishes school every day, or he finishes swimming every day at 4:45. Either we have to pick him up or he has to figure out an hour and a half ride home on the bus or a carpool. We should have a city bus stop that's easily accessible and gets people efficiently to where that's the mission of our city transportation board, our city transportation.
Yeah.
And it's not happening.
Yeah. So I'll follow up. Sure.
Let me answer the question as best as I can. I have not heard anything about getting employees to Annapolis High School. And so my first question would be, how many people are we talking about? We have implemented any number of alternative transportation options because of the garage going down. So if there are a number of people who work at the high school and can't get there, then we should be having a discussion about those alternative transportation options. So how many people are we talking about? That's the first part of your question, dealing with employees. The second part has to do with the youth. And I'm not sure whether anyone has done a survey to determine how many kids have to leave early and for what. And I suspect that the board may be considering, and Dr. Tobin, maybe you may know something about how we're moving those kids around who have alternative schedules. And if the school system is responsible for those modes of transportation for those kids.
Well, as of right now, in fact, I had a conversation with the county head of transportation, and he is very optimistic about putting a county bus stop right in front of the high school, and he's working on that right now. But what we are talking about, and I think what Dr. Bedell is interested in, is looking down the line, in addition to obviously the needs of right now. Blueprint is going to set up an even more what's the word I'm looking at? Sort of fluid day for high school students. And so the only logical way to handle that really is public transportation, not school transportation, because, and with that, you get the benefits that Jess is talking about. It's not just about the students, it's about everyone who works or spends their day at the high school. And there are many for various reasons. So Dr. Bedell already has or will be having a meeting with, I know, the county transportation folks about this, but this is long range at this point. I mean, we continue to work with county transportation and city transportation to help wherever they can right now. But long term, we're going to have to have more of our, what has traditionally been our school transportation, really be more public transportation, and having good, easy access to all of our schools on public transportation is critical, because it's also about the working parent who may need to come in the middle of the day and pick up their child, or, you know, who doesn't have a car or whatever. So, you know, these are the things that we know are both needs, but also that Blueprint is going to push us towards as we move along. If it's okay, Janet, because I have to go in a few minutes.
Yes.
I just have a few more things I want to run
Yep.
through
Go
here.
ahead.
So the other thing I spent my day doing was the president of the State Board of Education had contacted us and asked if they could come out and have a meeting with our board. So today we spent about 2.5 hours in conversation with all of our board and Dr. Bedell, Dr. Crawford, who's president of the State Board, Dr. Getty, who's vice president of the State Board, several other of the State Board members. Again, not something that has generally happened in the past. And I think is tremendously valuable, because first of all, again, Blueprint pushes us all towards certain things that we're going to have to adjust to. But beyond that, I think there's just a recognition that while the state board has its certain functions and local boards have their certain functions, there are areas in which we need to be able to work together. And those things are areas where, in some cases, things that may not necessarily be things that we individually control, but we might work together to advocate with the General Assembly, for example, or, you know, various. So it was a wide-ranging conversation. It was not a conversation in which we came out with 5 action items, but it was a conversation where I think we really were able to get on the table what are things that are top of mind for us, that concern us. One of the themes really that emerged was, frankly, flexibility, that we need more flexibility in a lot of the state requirements that we work through, everything from how career changers who come into the teaching profession, how their certifications can better reflect the experience they bring and not just be the sort of based on what a certification for a teacher coming right out of college would be. And a number of other things that we discussed, but it was a really valuable conversation. And I just have to say, I'm really grateful. In the past, I think the State Board of Education has been kind of inaccessible in many ways to the local boards. And I think Dr. Crawford is making a huge effort to shift that. And I think they also, the state superintendent, Mr. Chaudhary, shares that philosophy. And so I think we have an opportunity here to, we all agree that public education, if nothing else, needs to be more nimble.
Yeah.
That we have to be able to adjust to what our students need, to the changing economy, all the other factors around us. And so that was a really valuable conversation, and I think will bear fruit down the line for the whole state, but also for our district in many ways. We also, a couple of things, an announcement was made yesterday that moving forward, dual enrollment students who are enrolled in courses at Anne Arundel Community College who are AACPS students will no longer have to pay tuition. And that's huge. And in his short time here, Dr. Bedell has already built a great relationship with the folks at the community college, and they are thrilled to be working with us. And, you know, we're really grateful to them for working with us on this, because this is yet another place where some barriers are being lowered.
That's awesome news, Dr. Tobin. Now, when I was in with the counselors at Annapolis High, I thought that there was only one course. There's an entrepreneurship course that you can take at Annapolis High that is an AACPS course. Now,
Yeah,
are
but
you talking about courses at AACPS?
You can, but also courses at.
Okay, because there is only one that's offered one semester that's offered at
Annapolis High. Yeah.
But if you are dual enrollment and you're taking multiple courses at a community college, those courses are tuition free?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If you're an AACPS student, yep.
Okay, so we'll just have to spread the word more about that, what's available in the dual enrollment thing. Again, I think this is on all of us also. We'll try and find out what's available, because we need to spread it to our communities to let parents know, because the kids aren't gonna like automatically take it. The parents need to know what these options are also. But thank you for that clarification.
You know, we've been learning as a board, right? As
how we get them there.
Yeah. A whole other, another conversation with the county transportation folks, because this is also an issue, right? That kids from all over the county need to be able to get to the community college. But with regard to getting messages out, I think one of the things, you know, obviously I'm the first elected board member from our district. We hadn't had that before. So beginning to figure out these relationships of, you know, how I communicate, or we as a board communicate what's happening, so that AEC, the city council, everybody sort of knows what's going on. That just, it was a different way of doing it, I think, previous to having an elected board. So we're sort of finding our feet, and of course, COVID messed up a lot of things, but we're, you know, finding our feet on this. And I think the power of delivering that information to the public so they really understand what's going on is important, because not everybody is glued to, you know, the AACPS press release feed, but so much as they should be, and, you know, obviously. So finally, the first budget address delivered by Dr. Bedell is going to be on December 14th. So that's an evening board meeting.
Great.
I hope you'll all listen in. You know, again, our board meetings are generally a whole lot shorter now, so it's not quite as much of a commitment as it once was.
Good.
This coming board meeting next week, so it's going to be a little odd. We're going to have board meetings 1 week apart, just because of some weird language in the law as to when our meetings have to occur. We couldn't do it this week. We couldn't do a November 30th meeting for December, and we didn't want to do a December 21st meeting because, you know, it's the last week and the staff is taken up with a lot of other things. So we have a meeting December 7th, which is a day meeting. And I think one of the biggest things people will be paying attention to there is that's when we're voting on the calendar.
Okay.
So
and the day meetings start at 12 noon? Is that when
they start? At noon on the 7th.
And the evening meetings start at 6 p.m. or
6:30.
6:30. Okay.
So the 14th is when the budget address will be delivered. So those are a couple of things to look out for. And then in January, we have a couple of dates for budget hearings where people can always
Right.
email us their
Yeah.
concerns or questions. But if you want to give testimony on the budget, those are a
Right.
couple of options.
And I'll send people around the testimony link
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
that they know how to do that. But also, you mentioned to me that January 2nd is also the possible workshop on redistricting. I want everybody to put that into their possible calendars. Just
I'll get you the final times on that. Yes, we are going to be doing a workshop with Dr. Bedell. Dr. Bedell and I discussed this with the city council a little bit.
right.
We're going to have to do holistic work on redistricting. We know that. Obviously, Annapolis is busting at the seams. Annapolis High is. North County is busting at the seams. Other schools have empty seats. The county has somewhere around 10 or 11,000 empty seats, depending on who you talk to. So we've got to rebalance that. We've got to make sure there's an equitable use of facilities. The county folks have been leaning hard on us for this for years because in the Plan 2040 for the county, a lot of the places that have been designated sort of the best places to put in affordable housing have schools that are closed.
Right.
So we have to, and they're looking at saying, but you've got empty seats over here. So we've got to look at all of that. We have a consultant working on, because you have to start with just the data.
Mhm.
Dr. Bedell will be ultimately, it's his job to give us as a board his recommendation. So we're not there yet, but the workshop will be a beginning for that.
Right. And the workshop is a listen only. It's not for providing testimony.
It's no testimony.
It's an informational workshop for us to start getting up to speed about, and telling our friends and neighbors and our PTAs and our communities about things that are going to happen. How things are going to proceed in this determination, so that kind of preparing them and calming them down.
I mean, redistricting is probably one of the most difficult things after hiring a new superintendent that boards do.
Right.
So, we don't have anything to do right now, so we figured we'd take that on.
Or in general, there's a few of us on here who have PTSD from past redistricting.
Yes.
Well,
don't say that word. I
know. No joke. I mean, the folks who went through the Crofton redistricting, received, as I'm sure if you've been involved, horrific messages from people in the community. I mean, as we know, these are volunteers. These are people who just stepped up to serve their community. It's never easy. People are very emotional about it. And like all things, you lay the groundwork. I think it's become pretty clear to most people who've been paying attention. Dr. Bedell is focused on transparency, on making sure that people know what's happening, even if it's not great news. We're still putting out every week our vacancies. We think it's important to make sure that everybody knows exactly where we are and what we're trying to do. And he will handle this, I'm sure, the same. But it's a very hard thing for a new superintendent to come in and immediately take on, take on everything. And so, it probably will ultimately be done in phases, but, we'll wait to see what Dr. Bedell presents. So I think that's pretty much what I had. We have a couple.
Yes, so I do have a question. I know you have to blast off. Did you receive an email from Ms. Davis, our assistant superintendent for Annapolis cluster? Can you send that to me at the commission that I can send around to all the commissioners, because I've asked for that information.
Yeah.
It's often
I'm just checking here. I think I have it. But anyway, yes,
Yeah.
I will, because
Okay,
there was
we-
some
'cause we
farms.
run
There
out
was,
of time.
yeah, there was some farms data, and I think they're still solidifying some of the other pieces that you asked for. But anyway, there was some data there that I know you had asked for, so I will get it to you.
Okay, and
Okay.
I'll send that to the rest of the commissioners.
All right.
And just to reiterate, to wrap up from your presentation, thank you. I'm so impressed with Dr. Bedell's transparency. But we are part of that transparency. Like it behooves each of us. We all have these roles to work with our communities. And so the more we can work with AACPS staff in every school, the more we can work with our PTAs, coordinate with you, coordinate with our city council members, that we all got to do this to move us forward. And
yeah, and to that, I would say, as we said when we were in front of the city council, I think it was Alderman Savage said, well, we have each of us individually, we would sometimes have town halls, and would you all come? And Dr. Bedell and I, of course, are happy to do that. And the same goes if for any reason the commission ever wanted to hold something with, whatever, we're certainly, I think Dr. Bedell, I think I can speak for him in this respect, is always happy to come and speak. And certainly I am as well. So
yeah, and I'm gonna take you up on that. We do have, I communicated with Ms. Davis, and she hopefully offered to join our January 25th meeting and give kind of a presentation.
Yep.
Optimally, we would appreciate having AACPS staff, whether it's her or a principal or someone at each of our meetings, because we really need that implementation side of the administration, what they're doing. And the ability to ask questions of them and stuff. Jess, you have a question, and then Odessa.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that, Joanna, I don't know if you paid attention to the ADC back, but it used to be a few years ago, it was pre-COVID and a couple years before that, where, we had principals and staff were encouraged by the school system to attend our meetings, and the meetings were able to be really collaborative. At each meeting, a principal would be there. At that point in time, we were meeting in person, but you could do it just as well virtually or in a hybrid. However, explain, talk about what was happening at the school, give some statistics about the school, talk about some of the programs that were happening and the challenges they had. Our job, our mission as the Education Commission is to find resources that are needed for students in the Annapolis cluster and for the schools in the Annapolis cluster. And we can't do that if we're not being collaborative with the schools and the school system. And I feel that when principals were no longer being encouraged or were in some cases unencouraged, I don't know what the correct negative precursor there is, but to attend and in general, and staff in general, it really, we lost that connection and collaboration that's so important, right? I mean, because then we're here, and then we have, Seeds for Success or STARE, and we're all in one place being able to say, okay, here's an issue, here's a need, here's a resource that we can help connect with that. I think when we talk about, when I've heard Dr. Bedell talk about it, I didn't make it on Monday, but collaboration is key, right? Collaboration and community. And I would really love to get back to the point where, we had our regional district superintendent attending every meeting so that we could, have those conversations. And we had staff from the various schools attending the meetings, in general.
I remember going to each school as well, which was really interesting. And, it may be something we can look at, because I think, again, getting in now that we can actually, I know your meetings aren't generally in person anymore, but a way of getting into the buildings again and really kind of seeing what's going on and hearing from the principals how they're doing and what is going on, and what the issues are that they're particularly focused on.
For many years, it was not only the principal, like if we were at Georgetown East, it wasn't only you know,
Right.
it wasn't only Georgetown East principal,
A
all the
reading
other
teacher
principals
or-
came
yeah.
as well, and then teachers from that school, right? So
Right.
we would have between 5 and 6
to know them.
principals at every meeting, which was,
Yeah.
you know, a great way of, you know, or
Yeah.
representatives from the school. So
On that fun note, I just wanted to add the good news that when we do have information from our schools, we can help land grants. Our amazing Annapolis High PTSA president at some suggestions of ours that we have to look outside of our own community for grants because we don't have the monies within our community. Just landed a $10,000 grant to help fund a lot of the teacher requests, teacher grant requests. We have the teachers at Annapolis High submit grants for, you know, clubs, for emotional social learning. Our counselors have submitted trauma-informed learning grants, other things that help our school function, you know, only because I had some data that the counseling department had sent me. Can we write these grants? Can we know about what's going on in the schools enough to track down these resources? So I really reiterate that we have to have more collaboration with the school system itself.
I do have to run.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. If I don't see you all, have a lovely holiday for those who celebrate. And but please tune in to the upcoming board meetings to just a couple of things that are going on that I think are worth everybody
Awesome.
paying attention to. So,
Yes.
and thank you for all your work, folks.
Thank you,
Much
Dr.
appreciated.
Tobin. Great. Laura, I'm going to have you just pull up things, have that ready in a queue. I'm going to read some things. And our next item on the agenda is AACPS staff update. So Ms. Davis, our assistant superintendent for the Annapolis cluster, was not able to be here tonight, but she did email me a response to some questions. I have some other questions outstanding. They are going to provide us the enrollment data as soon as it's finalized from MSDE. That has to be all cleaned up and checked. So just to know our trends, I know our high school freshman class is quite large this year, things like that. I had asked Ms. Davis regarding what Dr. Tobin had just briefly referenced, that Ms. Davis was working on a grant regarding chronic absenteeism. And chronic absenteeism is if you are not present in school 10% of the school year. So if it's 180 days of school year, if you're don't have an excused absence for 18 or more days, that's considered chronic absenteeism. And it is our school gets nailed in the school ratings by MSDE if we have certain proportions of chronic absenteeism, and more importantly, our kids are not there to learn. So whether they're out for sickness or truancy or other reasons, we're falling behind on those, and that's an important metric in the Annapolis cluster. I looked at the data a few years ago, and the Annapolis, from our MSDE ratings, and the Annapolis cluster had it was up there for certain groups around like 27% chronic absenteeism. So some of that might be underreporting, that a kid is out for an illness and a parent doesn't send in a note, the kid doesn't bring in a note, and that's where we can help fix that underreporting. And then I'm going to read you what Ms. Davis wrote me. She said, the grant includes a partnership with Attendance Works. Chronic absenteeism, considered missing more than 10% of the school year. The consultants hold 5 professional development sessions with cluster principals and a team of 3 to 4 individuals from each school selected by their principal. Following each session, they hold individual school coaching sessions with the school teams. An overview of the work is outlined in the attached presentation, and I'll send that around. The Director of Student Support Services, MTSS office, the cluster, pupil personnel workers, community service program managers, school counselors, and school social workers are some of the key team members and offices involved in the work. If you remember, we at Annapolis High have one social worker for our 2,200 students. So it's great that she's working on this element, but there's not enough of our staff to do that. Laura, I'm going to hand it over to you for a minute, okay? Next item is public testimony.
I don't think we got any. I don't think we got any public testimony this month. Okay, so moving right along. Let me bring up the agenda again here. So then we're going into discussion and status. Sponsored events and programs that we wanted to share. Janet, I think you had
Laura,
some of those.
I'm sorry.
Oops.
Can I just ask you a quick question?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I forget the name of the woman who's the clerk tonight from the city, but there isn't anybody in the line in the. Is there? I was just wondering if there's anybody waiting to give public testimony online. That was me.
I don't see
No,
anyone else.
there's not.
Okay.
I did write all the PTA presidents and stuff to see if they had anything they wanted to share with me. And I just have something from Jamie Weaver for events at Germantown.
I do see that Grace is in as an attendee. If she could be promoted to a panelist.
She's actually in as a call-in listener, so she has the ability to unmute and talk if she wants to.
Oh, okay.
But that's the only option for her.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
All right, so we had events, sponsored events and programs, and I think that is what we got from Jamie Weaver about the Georgetown East book fair.
Would you be able to pull up the PowerPoint?
Yep.
for us?
Let me-
Awesome. I think if you're ever a commission chair, you need a Laura Booth to run everything and make the magic happen at the last minute.
Okay, I have the health and resource fair here. Is that what we're looking at? I mean, I know she's sent around the book fair too.
Did you get the PowerPoint from me that has the slides of all those things?
Yeah, I've got the health and resource fair. We'll do that one first. Hold
Yeah,
on.
we'll start with that.
There we go.
Just want to highlight some of the things that Dr. Bedell has been popping around to our schools, like the Energizer Bunny. This was a really impressive thing that the Annapolis City Police and the Public Library and other things helped Georgetown East pull off before Thanksgiving. And we have some pictures of it. Just this wonderful health and, community help, because Georgetown East is a community school. If you can read all these things about, non-perishables, clothing giveaway, dental health, behavioral health, housing assistance, gun safety. I am so impressed with what they did here. And I know it was probably very beneficial. If you can go to the next slide, Laura. There's just some, maybe next one. There was some pictures I included.
Oh, I think that was ahead of that. Hang on.
Yeah, sorry.
Nope. Where were the pictures? Sorry.
Pictures
here we
were at
go.
the very beginning.
There we go. Yeah,
Okay.
here we go.
Right. So another thing I'd recommend is following, if you look at this Twitter handle, AACPS SUP, SUPT. Dr. Bedell puts out, pictures from where he's been, what he's doing. He's connecting with so many people across the enormous school district that it's really given a lot of our community a chance to see him. I think there's a picture of what they had at the resource fair. So this was inside Georgetown East Elementary, and the incredible spread they had for people who came and the staff, and to meet the staff and get these resources and talk to people and really solve a lot of problems. So we want to thank, the principal of Georgetown East and all the staff there for making this was on a Saturday, donating their precious time to help their students and their families thrive. Really appreciative of the city's efforts to work with them. There was a couple other, Laura, Dr. Bedell met with the Caucus of African American Leaders in town.
Sorry.
Um,
There we go.
Yeah, so he met with the Caucus of African American Leaders. This was right after November 9th. So he's really getting out. Now, I would ask anyone who's involved in these events, please let the Education Commission know in advance, because we would love to be there to, hear what our community says, what they're telling him they need, so that we can advocate for that. So we didn't know about his presentation to the city council or to the African American leaders and everything. So whoever knows of events coming up, please send them to Annapolis Education Commission @gmail.com and keep us in the loop, please. Or, I'll send my phone number out to everybody so that you have it. But this again is, we need to keep the information flowing between us. And we'd love to find out more.
Coming up is the book fair that she posted. Whoops.
Coming up is the book fair. Jamie Weaver from Ward 2 wanted us to know about this. The book fair is December 5th through 9th. And so she's talking about Germantown Elementary, diverse school, 54% Hispanic, 19% white, 24% African American, and 75% of students qualify for free and reduced lunch. And talking about, I don't know if any of you have worked book fairs in your storied past. It is one of the most enjoyable parts of elementary and middle school to be at a book fair and seeing the kids just reveling in picking out books for themselves or picking out books for their brother or sister. So on the next page, Laura, there should be a link to donating. So they have a donation program. And I sent this to you by email to each commission member. So that if you donate $25, you can get one book for 3 kids. If you donate $100, you get one book for each of the 12 teachers on the teacher wish list, or for 12 kids. So consider that, and we want to keep information like this flowing through the commission. We're going to move to the next. I'm going to invite any other people if they want to mention activities at their schools coming up for us to keep in mind. A lot of our schools are also having holiday bazaars that kids use their good behavior points for shopping for their families. So please declutter your houses and, get rid of anything you don't want, those gift candles, that jewelry you don't wear, presents for dads and uncles and brothers, gloves, tape measures, anything for men as well. The kids love picking out presents. And so each of our schools, I know Bates is probably doing it, Laura. Yep. Annapolis Middle's doing it. You can drop these things off, just put them in a grocery bag and drop them off at the main office saying holiday bazaar.
Bates Bargain Basement.
Bates Bargain Basement, holiday bazaar.
Dragon Dean Dream Shop.
Dragon Dream Shop. I know Hillsmere Elementary is doing some. I don't know about the other elementary schools, but I would assume some of them are. And we can find out more. But tell your friends, it's a great way to gently used items, you have candles, whatever. Gently used items are well received. Books, toys, puzzles, anything like that a kid could regift would be a great thing. Did anyone else have any events you want to mention?
I just wanted to say, when you were talking about the Georgetown East, I think we really need to give a shout out to the Annapolis Police Department. That is one of the many things that they've done this fall, and they've done all year long. They do movie nights for the different schools. They did a movie night with Annapolis Middle. They've done movie nights with various elementary schools. Wow. They do programs like that all the time, and it really is fantastic. So I wanted to give a shout out for that. And then I also, for Annapolis Middle School, say that, and Bates, sorry, for Annapolis and Bates, we have our fundraiser. This is something that I started a few years ago for Annapolis Middle, and we have since combined with Bates. We are very grateful that Quiet Waters Park is allowing us to do it again this year. And Friday and Saturday nights, Annapolis Middle School and Bates run the Cocoa Shack, which is that awesome little white building that you see in the picture. And it is a fundraiser, as Janet was mentioning, you know, because of our schools, and because of just everything, finding ways to fundraise outside of our families, finding ways to not have to ask our families for another penny, is really important. And so this is, you know, and where we can, fundraise from the community around us. So this is a great opportunity for our schools. It's been really successful. It's very fun. 3 people work in the booth. It can be 3 adults. It can be 2 adults and a student. It can be 2 students and a parent or guardian. It's a great way for kids to earn service hours, including, it doesn't just have to be Annapolis Middle and Bates students. We've had Annapolis High School kids come in the past to earn their service hours. And it's really fun. And so the first weekend is December 9th and 10th. And it will go through the end of February. And the link to sign up, there's an event on the Annapolis Middle School PTSA page if you want to go to that. We also have a wish list for donations for the things that we sell at our shack, which include obviously hot cocoa, but all sorts of snacks. And it's just a really great time. I know some people come and they're with their kids and they work at the shack. I come while my kids are ice skating, and it's kind of a great way to hang out and meet some other Annapolis Middle and Bates parents, and just spend a fun night. Also being sort of a ghost at the ice rink while my kids are being teenagers, which is also fun. So, but anyway.
Great program. Thank you so much, Jess and Laura and everybody else who's put that together and worked many a chilly hour out there. It is super nice that the kids have some place to hang out together on Friday and Saturday nights, and this is really popular. And
the shifts are 2 hours, so it's great if you want to come early and skate with your friends and then work for 2 hours, or vice versa. And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for running that. I have some things in the back of my car I will drop off on your porch, Jess, for that. So are there any other events people want to mention? I think I will continue sending them around by email as we hear of them. Next on our list, actually, Laura, I'm going to have you go to the slides that from the City Council presentation by Dr. Bedell. I just want to give you a taste of what I'm going to send around, what Bob Mosier from AACPS Public Outreach has sent us, all the full slides, but I want to give you a taste of what was presented, of the data that Dr. Bedell is really drilling down. And so for the first time, like, he's going in and meeting with the transportation team and directors. He's getting metrics for where we need to focus our efforts, and what we can do. This one, AP class enrollment, and he talks about in his own personal story, which is really, I hope you can go to one of the sessions to hear him talk about it, or see him talk about it in the City Council video presentation, where he talks about, he was a homeless kid. He was from a large family, where he was the one in his family to graduate high school. So he was never invited to take an AP class. In his high school, it's where kids are getting overlooked for the opportunities that they can do when they're challenged and supported. So it's talking about, how do we talk to people in our community about helping them pick classes for high school, thinking about their schedules, I went in with one of my Spanish speaking friends and sat down. She gave permission for the counselor for me to be there while we were discussing the students' schedule and building it out. And we added a bunch of things that I knew he could do. But how can we make more of our kids have these supports to go into certain classes of challenge, AP classes, rigorous classes that will benefit them? And if you have ideas you want to share, that would be great. You can put them in the listening session, where in the listening session, they have 3 categories where they're soliciting input. There's what is AACPS doing well currently? The second category is what could AACPS do better or eliminate? And the third category, Laura, what was it? What new things should AACPS be doing?
If you had time and money was no object, what change would you like to see?
Right. And so I know Rachel was there, Laura was there, Odessa was there, I was there at the first session, along with other people. Rachel, did you want to just throw in anything that your table had mentioned, or?
Sure. I mean, I was telling Laura, so most of the discussion at my table was about elementary and middle school level, just with the participants we had at the table. And so there were, ideas about changes to the curriculum that have happened recently, or things people wanted to prioritize in a variety of areas. But mostly I just felt it was a very positive event. I mean, people were, I think, very optimistic and really were happy to have their ideas solicited. So I just had a great positive feel.
Mm-hmm. I thought so also. Laura, did you have any?
The thing I thought was super cool was that 2 of the things that my table discussed, first was that we need to retain good staff. And then 2 days later, we got the email about bonuses going out to all the teachers. So I thought that was awesome. And then the other thing that we talked about was getting kids, because at the table I was at, the emphasis was definitely more on high school, older students. And so we were talking a lot about Annapolis High and some of the challenges there. But we talked about why one of the parents said, well, why isn't it free if they're at the high school, but they're also taking community college classes? Why do they also have to pay tuition? And like the very next morning, we got the press release about that. So I know maybe a little bit of this is sort of coincidental. It was already in the works, but I think the point is that I was encouraged about was that things that we are concerned about, obviously Dr. Bedell and his staff is also concerned about. So these things are already in motion. So a lot of the issues that we're bringing up, they're already aware of and they're already working, and it's not going to happen overnight. He's pretty clear about, it's a lot of work, but the progress is being made. And I really left also feeling very positive that we are definitely moving in a good direction. So it's encouraging.
Awesome. Odessa, could you tell us about some of the students who were there to greet the participants, and then what you found at your table and talking with people and other things?
Okay, it was a good night. I was happy to see the hosts and the hostesses of the Black History Club, and they had on their T-shirts, and they're for sale if anybody is interested in buying a T-shirt. But you had asked me to talk about the Black History Club. It's been around for a while. I joined, I think I became a sponsor around 2010 or somewhere around there. It was some seniors, Damon Ross and his sister. They were sponsoring the club before me, and it's very enlightening, where the kids learn history that they don't probably get in the classrooms, and we do trips, and we have done trips. I'm no longer participating that much with the club, but we've gone on the Underground Railroad trips and up to New York to the Apollo Theater, and it's just things that relate to Black history in a positive way, not just about slavery.
Right.
And the kids really enjoy it. They really enjoy it, and they have a nice time. And Miss McNeil, She's a new teacher there. I think she teaches English. She's only been there maybe for about 2 years,
Okay,
but she's the new Miss
She-
McNeil.
she's the teacher sponsor. Okay, great. We'll,
Right.
we'll reach out to her. But it was really great to see that.
And I'll tell you, yeah, one thing I wanted to say, and I'll tell you, we did discuss the suspension and the expulsion rate, especially in elementary school.
Mhm.
The first graders, second graders, and third graders should not be suspended over, and especially over and over again. So we discussed that. So hopefully, Dr. Bedell will, also bring that to his attention.
Okay. I'm glad you brought that up because that is some data that we are trying to get from the school system. I know that Jess and Laura have participated in some of the PBIS, Positive Behavioral Intervention System, monthly meetings at Annapolis High, Annapolis Middle, and Bates, where they go over that data and the reasons for disciplinary actions and stuff. I'd asked Ms. Davis for that, and she directed me to Mr. Mosier, who I'm going to send an email to try and get that data so that we can understand what's going on in our cluster, can work with our parents, can work with our schools, and see how to alleviate that situation and get our kids back on track and learning. But thank you for bringing that up. Laura, you have your hand up.
Yeah, two things on that. First of all, the meeting that I attended was the day of the bridge accident. So it was perhaps a little bit less attended than normal, but it was great because we really had time to kind of talk about some of the, like the causes for some of those things. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting is they did trend analysis like from the beginning of the year. And I think at the beginning of every school year, there's sort of a break-in period, if you will.
Shake out
Yeah.
from the summer.
Exactly.
Summer
Where
freedom.
they kind of have to remember how to be in school again. And also, for sixth graders, it's obviously a very different situation than from elementary school where you're in, one classroom all day to having to shift between classrooms. And so that was, you would normally expect a bit of a downturn, but even in the upper grades, there was from the beginning of the year to where we are now, big drop in referrals. And they talked about, they even broke it down by areas of the school, like if it was cafeteria or hallway, they broke it down and all across the board, the numbers were going down. So it was really encouraging. And they talked about the things that we do. We have a lot of PBIS activities that happen in our schools, which probably if you aren't in the schools, you may not be hearing about. At Bates, for example, we did something called the Turkathlon, happens the last day before the Thanksgiving break. And it's kind of like a little mini field day where the kids get to go outside and they have fun little events that the teachers run and some parent volunteers run, that they can earn tickets to go out and do that by getting Bates bucks, or for every time that they demonstrate positive behavior, they get sort of a coupon and they can cash those in then for activities at the school. They have the school has a little cart that comes around at lunchtime so the kids can buy pens and erasers and things like that. They're always looking for donations for the cart like that. I can send that around. So I know I'm sure that that AMS has something like that as well, but ours is primarily funded by parent donations. So donations like that would be awesome. I did hear it not at the PBIS meeting, but in talking at a principal's coffee that they're not doing suspensions at Bates. Because if kids are having trouble in school, keeping them out of school doesn't seem like a really good plan. So instead of doing they're not doing Saturday school anymore, which is one of the things that they used to do. And they're trying to keep kids in the classroom because if a kid is acting up because they feel lost in the classroom, missing more classroom time is not going to help that situation. So overall, I think they're moving in a really positive direction and trying to encourage good behavior and figure out sort of what the causes are. So it was positive.
So who's the principal at Bates now?
Ms. Hicks.
Oh,
yeah, she was the assistant principal there for I think 3 years, and then has been principal there since. I think this is her third year. She was there before I got there. So.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Great. Thank you for the explanations, Laura. That helps.
I could just repeat everything Laura said. We're doing the same
AMS
things at
also.
Annapolis Middle, so. But it's been great, and I will say, one of the things, I think I said this at the last meeting, but that Annapolis Middle, one of the things is that in terms of the behavior, things are looking much better than they were last year. I would love to see a comparison, and I think we asked for this, but I haven't gotten it yet, with 2019 or 2020, the fall of 2020, just to get an idea as to where, last year was our first year post-COVID, so that's, or still COVID or whatever, so that's sort of a hard comparison, but I'd love to see where we are compared to that. But in general, I think everyone's feeling like things have really sort of leveled out, and the behavioral things that they're getting are seem to be much less severe. So I'm really happy. I also really think that having, we got an additional social worker this year, which has been really great. And
Right. So now you have
some additional
two
staff.
social workers, 2 or 3 with a contract one.
We have two.
2.
One that's supposed to be there. One that's,
Right.
regular.
I thought there was
the Title
an
One.
additional program that was bringing you up to like 3 social workers.
No, I think the Title I program allowed us to get one more social worker, but it also allowed us to get other staff and other advisories. So it's just, it's really allowed, that's really been really helpful. So
Right. And when you have let's shout out a social worker with the experience like Amy Beller, who's been in the system, is doing amazing stuff. Annapolis Middle stole her from Bates. But it shows you how much can be done by some really talented folks staying in the Annapolis cluster.
Right.
So,
And she's fantastic. And she has really helped. She's allowed, what's happened is she really focuses on the community connections.
Yeah.
And then the other social worker focuses on the individual needs. And so together it's this just fantastic team that's really doing great things.
Yeah. So she reached out to me when Annapolis Middle was doing a science career exposure days for their students, and they were having difficulty, finding science professionals to come in and talk to students about their jobs. But I think that is such a huge, if we can continue, if they do it again in the spring or something, if we can continue to get people from the community to come in and do that, the kids need to see these, hear different jobs talked about and what you could possibly do with an interest in something.
I'm just really grateful that my kid goes to Annapolis Middle. It's just a great school.
Yay, thank you. So next we're gonna hold on. Dr. Bedell talked about transportation. That is one thing we need to prepare our families for and our community for, is that when the first semester is over, which is generally the third week in January or so, there will be a large switch in kids who already had buses. Well, first of all, they're coming on with the addition of new transportation vans for the non-public student transportation. So if your student goes to Kennedy Krieger or a variety of the other specialized schools where AACPS cannot provide that level of instructional need, no longer will that student be taking up, 3 students taking up a bus that could handle 52 students. So they're going to be getting van transport coming on in December. That's going to free up some buses, and we know it's been hard on a lot of parents, but things are going to change at the semester break, and we need our parents who have currently had buses to know that changes are going to be made, and try not to take it out on the staff, but Dr. Bedell is trying to share the pain of our limited resource and not have certain people without buses for the entire year. So that's going to be something we need some positive PR going out about that change, so people are prepared for it.
The next semester starts January 27th is the start of the second semester.
Okay. Yeah. So talk to people in your circles about that potentially, that potential happening that they need to keep an eye And we appreciate all that they're doing to continually work through each week and see what they can do better on transportation.
Janet, can we just because we're talking about transportation, and I think there were some questions because we had to move on, which is totally understandable because Joanna had to leave. But I think, when we were talking about the transportation and the bus stop at the high school, I think it's awesome that the county transportation department is talking to the school system about a bus because like we said, we do need a bus that goes to the community college. We have plenty of kids that go to Annapolis High School that live in the county. But I think it's really important that we, as a commission, and just as residents of the city or nearby, advocate that our city also has a bus because, having any bus stop, any bus route that involves students or employees or anyone or parents or anyone else having to go to the mall and transfer onto a bus is never going to be efficient enough to work well for our students, right? I grew up in DC. I rode the public bus to and from high school not every day, but I rode it a lot to and from high school. And it doesn't work if it's not convenient, right? I mean, that's one of the reasons the city buses are not as utilized because they aren't convenient if you can find any other opportunity. And we do have some good alternatives right now for transportation in downtown Annapolis, the Annapolis Go, for example, but that doesn't go down Forest Drive, let alone out to the high school.
Right. So
the scooters and the bikes don't go out there.
Right. The mayor told me that they were looking into the extension of Annapolis Go out to the high school area. So
yeah, I was told that would not happen.
You were told what?
It would not happen by Annapolis Go. Yeah, that they are not, because the focus of Annapolis Go is the downtown, is the downtown. It's a grant and it's just for downtown. But one of the questions
that's on me before you go forward. That's on me to follow up. I have not heard back from them. I had a meeting with the mayor and the city manager and the transportation director and stuff. I have not heard back on that regarding any actions or improvements. So I have it on my list that I need to follow up with them immediately to see what they're actually doing and what we need to keep pressing for.
Because it really isn't about our lack of bus 42, right? This is about transportation to and from our high school. And I think one of the questions Alderman Finlayson asked was how many workers are there? And right now, you can't answer that question because we don't have a way. So no one would take a job if they don't have transportation. They wouldn't take a janitorial job or a kitchen staff job at the high school if they don't have transportation because there's no way to get there. So in that case, which in general, I mean, in the general parlance of transportation, the transportation world, if you build it, they will come. Most of the time in transportation world and transportation departments, yes, there are times where you're very lucky where you're like, okay, we have this place that's very utilized. We're going to put a stop there. But a lot of times we're building a new shopping center. We're going to put a stop there. We don't know how many people will use it, but if we build it, they will come. So I think that's really important. And I think one of the questions that she asked too was how many students leave early. And I think you and Laura can answer that better than I can because I haven't had a senior for a couple of years now. Your seniors were more, but if I'm not mistaken, if you're a senior, when your classes are finished during the day, you have to leave the campus.
You have to leave the campus.
Not provide transportation.
Right.
Right.
What happened to the bus stop that used to be next door? It's not there anymore?
Well, it is, but it takes it, like if you live in Robinwood, for example, it takes an hour and a half to get from Robinwood to that bus stop at the Heritage Center.
Heritage Complex.
Well, okay. All right, but the bus is still there, though. The bus stop is still there next door.
It's still there.
And it runs like once an hour or?
Right, once an hour. It's not a very,
bus.
Yeah, and it goes to the mall. So it doesn't really help you if you're trying to get home. It takes you to the mall and then you wait around for another bus that's going to take you actually down into where you need to be in Annapolis.
And so, like, for example, if you get on the bus, so if you pick up the city bus at Robinwood, for example, or if you pick it up in Eastport, if my kid, if Sam wanted to pick it up and take to school, you pick it up, it takes you down Forest Drive, it takes you to the mall, and then you get on the county bus, and then the county bus takes you out around to Best Buy and around that whole shopping center, and then brings you back around and then takes you to Heritage Center, and then you have to walk the extra 15 minutes to the high school.
Mhm.
I never
They
heard of a
did
campus.
reroute that, Jess. So there was some like, okay, let's hit the high school first before we go to Best Buy and like
Which
how
shaves like 20 minutes
Have
off
they-
of it, but it's
have
still
they-
over an hour.
he
Are you
said he
sure
was
they've-
going to do that. He
I
said
don't think that they've done
Okay.
it yet.
That's why we need
Yeah.
some answers from the city and the Transportation Commission and the Transportation Department and stuff. And they do have federal mandates that prevent them from doing everything we ask right away without, several years of hearings and they have a very strict reporting process of how they make changes to bus stops and they have to go through a public hearing process and advertise that and stuff and do a user survey and stuff like that. Alderwoman Finlayson, did you have some?
Yes, I think Mr. Moore, our new transportation director, would be a good person to invite to a meeting so he can
That'd be great.
accurately lay out exactly what our bus routes are. We
That would
have a number of them that take the Forest Drive route.
Yeah.
And some take longer than others, there's no question. And you're absolutely correct, Janet. Much of our guidelines
Yeah.
are mandated by MTA and the feds because of the
Mhm.
funding that we get for those routes. But he would be the one to best explain the grid
Yeah,
and what changes have been made to accommodate the students at Annapolis High School and employees.
that's a great idea. Great idea.
And on the other note, and I've got 2 meetings going and I'm going to jump off as soon as I finish. We always look to transportation for connectivity to get all of our city residents to job opportunities. And we realize that many new opportunities arise in other areas of our county and borderline other counties. And so that's always part of the transit plan, figuring out how to get people where they need to get for employment. So that's always on the radar. So thank you for the questions, and I'm afraid I gotta run.
Yes. Okay, thank you. I do have one question before you
Sure.
go, Alderman. We have not finalized a date for our December meeting. The current fourth Wednesday is December, is that 28th, Laura? And I wanted to see if we're gonna have enough people able to participate that week. Yes, it's Wednesday, December 28th.
Yes.
Um,
And the
Well,
board-
traditionally, the city doesn't have meetings during
during
uh,
that
that
week.
time, so I would encourage us to not do that.
Okay,
If you must have another one, it should be before the 20th.
right.
And the school board is meeting on the 7th and 14th because
And
they've
14th.
moved their meetings up.
Right. And I know I was working with Mark Hillebrand and with all the commissions trying to move their meetings, it's getting a little tight. So
21st would be the only other option if we did a Wednesday.
yeah. I will send an email to you, Alderwoman, and try and figure out other people's schedules and see how we're going to proceed with the December meeting.
Sounds
whether-
good. We have a new staff person, Kayla. So she will help to facilitate,
What's
along with Hillary, of course.
okay? What's Kayla's last name?
I think it's Jackson, but I'm not sure.
Okay. I'll go through Hillary and we'll try and find a
Yeah.
date on your calendars and see
Yeah.
what's possible or what's not possible. So thank you for your
That'd be great.
participation. Thank you for the suggestion of Mr. Moore. That's an excellent idea.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Take care. Happy holidays.
Good night.
So it's 7:48. We're going to try and power through the last couple minutes. I'd like to ask if we have, so transportation is an unfinished thing and my action item is to follow up with the city on that, Jess. Is there any other unfinished business you would like to revisit that we need to put on our attention span?
I would just like to say, I think I I brought up at a previous meeting the issue with the bus stop at Eastport Elementary. Didn't I bring that up
Yeah.
at the previous meeting? This week we had an issue at the school where the police had to be called and they were not able to get to the school because of the bus being stopped on Chesapeake Avenue. And that was brought up to the transportation department, and they are still adamant that
It was brought up
having-
to the AACPS Transportation Department?
to the AACPS transportation department, and they are still adamant that that having the bus stop on Chesapeake Avenue is the preferred place for the bus to stop, even though for decades the bus did pick up and drop off on Fifth Street. There is a bus cutout on Fifth Street, and the Eastport Civic Association, the Eastport Business Association, many residents have all asked that the bus stop be moved back to Fifth Street, but the school system is adamant, even with the incident that happened this week.
Wow.
So
Okay, I will put that, I'll circle back with you and put that on our advocacy communications to continue having, that we need to, if the community is being asked to step up and support the school system, we need the school system to step up and support the community safety functions. So we will communicate that to whatever levels we need to accomplish that.
Right.
Does anyone else have unfinished business you'd like us to look at, to attend to think about? Okay, hearing none, I'm gonna go to new business. Anybody have any suggestions, or do you have mentorship events coming up? I'm gonna talk about communication, because I think that's a vital role. We do have the community Facebook page, the Annapolis High School community Facebook page that Jess and Laura and I and other people are moderators, administrators on, helping people figure things out. Like I just answered a question of today, somebody was asking, are students tutoring other students at the high school? And I gave them the contact information of who to find out that from, and where to go. But there's so much complexity that parents are dealing with that I really think we need greater communication to help people get through.
And also to just encourage kids. I mean, I don't know about all schools, but like I know at both Bates and at Annapolis Middle, the school sends out a newsletter that has in it, like at Bates, we call it the Cougar Chronicle. And it, I'll give a shout out to Ms. Clark, our attendance secretary, who does a phenomenal job with it. And it has in there point by point, every single thing that is happening at the school for the next week. She puts it out weekly. So that has every single thing that's happening for the next week. And so if any Bates parents are watching, make sure that you're opening and reading your Chronicle, because a lot of times the questions that people are asking me is, oh, I didn't know about this, or what's that? All that information is there. But I think sometimes parents get overwhelmed with the sheer volume of emails and texts that we get from the school system, especially with regard to the buses not running, which is a guaranteed at least 2 messages per day, or morning and afternoon. So I think for parents, if you're trying to sort of navigate through and figure out, well, what's worth looking at and what isn't, if your school's sending out a newsletter, that should be your first place to go, because it's going to answer a lot of questions. The parents are asking, when are picture day retakes, or, when's this or that. All that information's in there.
Awesome.
And I don't know if you're talking about communications, or if Mr. Mosier, if you're still watching, I keep meaning to send this email and I keep forgetting. I don't know if there's a way the school system can have the bus texts come on a different text number than all of the other texts, but I can never find the Dragon Digest, for example, for Annapolis Middle, because, I'll get it on a Sunday afternoon or whenever it gets sent out, or the one for Eastport Elementary. And then I'll think, oh, I'm going to read that later. And then later is 17 bus texts later, and it's so far back. So that is part of I know for me, and I'm someone who's fairly active and tries to follow up on all the different things. So
Mhm.
anyway, I just wanted,
Yeah.
if somebody can help me, remember to ask her if that's possible. To get
I will
things
help you
done.
remember. We will put that in an email. Yeah, I don't know if Mr. Mosier's watching also. I went on, so Twitter is a lot of the school groups do notifications through Twitter, like, the music department, the music boosters will have a thing, or the Panther sports boosters, or you find out if a game is canceled on Twitter. With the imminent demise of Twitter soon, we need to really rethink how families are getting information. And I recently went on the ACPS webpage on my desk, on my Mac laptop. And there's been a kind of a whole scale change to the menus up top. And I was looking, and I've been doing this for 15 years now. I'm pretty wonky good at navigating the school websites. And everything was missing. I couldn't even find the listening tour information. And I typed in this in the search box, listening tour, listening superintendent. And it would not get me to the page to share that information. So I think we have a great difficulty in that all of the menu shortcuts. You used to be able to see what the school calendar was. Here's school lunches. That has all been compressed and kind of hidden into menus where people do not know where to find things. So I'd encourage you all to go on the ACPS homepage, try and find what you need, and let's provide some feedback on the type, whether your parent community is going to have difficulty accessing information, because there are already so many complexities just to try and get your kid through school and through Naviance and requesting things online, that I don't want more barriers through that webpage revision. So if you can look at that and think about that and send anything. Please tell people, and please remember, for you guys, anything you wish to find out about, send us an email at AnnapolisEducationCommission@gmail.com, and we will forward it on to whichever decision makers handle those things. Rachel, I haven't forgotten your question about the middle year, the kind of the postgraduate GED type program.
Actually, I learned a lot more about that even at the listening session. So,
oh, good.
I have a pending question for some of you, but I think I'll see if I can collect some more information and send it to you by email.
Okay, that sounds
about
good.
a Naval Academy program that existed before COVID, and I think they need to sort of reconnect back with the schools. So,
oh, is it mids for kids? Because I love me some mids for kids.
Exactly, and I think that has been sort of dormant. As far as I've asked around, that's been sort of dormant since before COVID, and I think they may need some help reestablish, because it's a student-led organization. So if people graduate, then anyway.
Right. And transportation was an issue there, as I recall, because we had to get the mids from the yard to each of the schools and then back again. And a lot of it, they don't have cars themselves, and so that was always an issue.
I've got
an Annapolis Middle.
I've got a minivan. I can pick them up.
At Annapolis Middle School, Chaz Hughley he was the primary coordinator for years, and then his kids went on to high school, and now he's retired from the Navy. So I know that's part of the gap as well. He was a rock star for that for many, many years. But I'm happy to help whatever I can do to that's a great resource. I love that program.
Yeah. So if you let us know who a contact at the Academy might be, we can try and get that going again.
Great. Yeah, I'll be in touch about that.
Awesome. Does anybody else have any other items you wish to mention before we close out our productive meeting? I thank you for your patience. I thank you for your time and attention and efforts that you're doing throughout the community.
I will throw out at Bates, we are doing something called the 12 Days of Batesmas to thank our teachers. So for the 12 school days leading up to the winter break, we are collecting gift certificates, gift baskets, anything you think a teacher might like. If you want to just want to do something nice for a teacher, drop off a gift in the office and say that it's for 12 days of Bates Mitts. And then every morning, depending on how many gifts we got, every morning, Ms. Hicks will pick, she has like a prize wheel that she spins, and she will pick staff members, and then they get a gift. So we're trying to sort of raise community awareness. If you have a local business and you want to donate a gift card or something from your business, just drop it off in the main office at Bates, and we would very much appreciate that. Thanks.
That's an awesome program. Thank you, Laura. All
I just
right.
wanted to, Annapolis Middle is still doing, I forgot, but anyway, Annapolis Middle is still doing our uniform drive. We really need sweatshirts and shirts. We have a lot of pants, but we do not have that many shirts and sweatshirts. So
Did my church donate coats?
To Annapolis Middle? To Annapolis Middle, I'm not sure, but I can talk to Ms. Beller and ask her if she knows about it. But we do have, I can follow up with her. We have 3 big boxes out on the front ramp at Annapolis Middle that you can drop off coats or sweatshirts or just as a reminder for everyone who doesn't know, everybody who lives in Eastport from Madison Street, I don't know, whatever direction that is, south, wait, it's west, south. Or Madison Street South. So basically 3/4 of everybody who lives in Harbor House, everybody who lives in Eastport Terrace, everybody who lives in Colony Hills, and everyone who lives in the President Streets, like Van Buren, Jackson, whatever, they have to walk to school. They do not, they are within the 1.5 mile radius of Annapolis Middle School, and they have to walk to school. So on days like today, when the weather is cold and rainy, they do not have a bus to transport them. And for, that's our neighborhood is a very middle to low income. A lot of families work jobs where they have to be at, my family included, where you have to be at early in the morning. And, if the kids and a lot of times don't necessarily have access to personal transportation. So if they don't have someone to give them a ride on a day like today when it's pouring rain and cold and gross, they have to walk 1.5 miles to the school and 1.5 miles back from the school. So those donations of coats and jackets and sweatshirts are really, really helpful until we can get the school system to lessen the walking radius to Annapolis Middle School. We hope
That's
that
great.
At some point,
Great to bring up.
that'll be only something I've been trying to work on the entire time I've been on the commission. That's going to be my thing.
So there's donation boxes outside the school if you drive by the main entrance?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you drive by the main entrance on the ramp, there are donation boxes. So we really, really could use those sweatshirts and jackets. All of our
I
kids.
thought my church donated coats to Annapolis Middle, but I'll check it out.
Okay, they may have. I just might not know about it because they probably
Yeah,
run
but
into Miss Beller.
you're the PTA person, right? Okay.
I am. Yeah.
You're supposed to know everything. Everything.
I know.
She already does. She runs all of Annapolis already. So I will entertain a motion. We do not have a date yet. I will send an email about our December meeting possibilities, and you can let me know. Maybe I'll do a doodle poll. I'll check with the city what's possible. But we do have a date of January 25th for our next January meeting. If you can put that on your calendars, please. And thank you all for your patience. I will entertain a motion to close our meeting.
I'll
And
move.
so moved, seconded by anyone? Enid seconds. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for all your efforts. And I'll be talking to you soon by email. Keep the